the Roman Empire, a name that still echoes through history with tales of military might, breathtaking architecture, political intrigue, and unflinching brutality. It was a civilization that gave the world roads, laws, and literature, but also invented some of the cruelest punishments known to mankind. When we think of Roman punishment, our minds often drift to gladiators fighting in the Colosseum, criminals being thrown to lions, or rebels crucified by the roadside. But beneath the surface, there existed a darker, more sinister side of Roman justice, punishments crafted not just to kill, but to erase a person's dignity, their identity, and even their memory. And while men often faced execution, crucifixion, or exile, women, especially women of status, could face something even more terrifying. For in Rome, to punish a woman was not simply to destroy her body, but to destroy her honor. And so, deep within the history of ancient Rome, we find the story of one of the most chilling sentences ever passed upon a woman. A punishment so unique, so dehumanizing, and so symbolically cruel that it still sends shivers down the spine nearly 2,000 years later. To understand this punishment, we must first understand the world of Rome, and the role of women within it. In Rome, women were citizens, but they were far from equal to men. A woman's life was shaped by the ideals of modesty, chastity, and loyalty, not just to her husband, but to her family and to the state itself. Her reputation was her most valuable asset. From the moment she was born, a Roman woman was expected to obey her father, the paterfamilias, the legal head of the family. Upon marriage, this authority would often pass to her husband. She could not vote, hold political office, or serve in the military. Her primary duties were domestic, to bear children, manage the household, and uphold her family's honor. However, this didn't mean women had no influence. Noble women could wield incredible power. Behind the scenes, influencing husbands, arranging political alliances, and managing vast estates. But with influence came danger. For a woman of high status, scandal was deadly. Rumors of infidelity, political betrayal, or conspiracy could destroy not only her life, but the honor of her entire family. And when the honor of a noble Roman family was tarnished, the punishment could be severe. Roman law was strict, and crimes committed by women were often judged harshly. Adultery, for example, was not just a private matter between husband and wife. It was considered a crime against the state. In 18 BC, Emperor Augustus even passed the Lex Julia de Adulteriis Coercendis, a law making adultery a public crime punishable by banishment, confiscation of property, or worse. But adultery was not the only sin that could bring ruin. Noble women could also be accused of treason, witchcraft, or political conspiracy. And then there were the rare but devastating charges of parricide, the killing of a parent, spouse, or close family member. This was considered one of the most unthinkable acts in Roman society. For parricide, Rome reserved one of its most infamous punishments, pena culiae, the punishment of the sack. The origins of pena culiae are ancient, even by Roman standards. It was a ritual execution reserved for those guilty of the most heinous betrayal, killing one's own blood. The method was as strange as it was horrifying. The condemned would be stripped, beaten, and sewn into a large leather sack. But they would not be alone. Inside the sack, the Romans placed 4 live animals: a dog, a monkey, a snake, and a rooster. Each animal carried its own symbolic meaning in Roman culture. The dog, loyalty twisted into aggression, representing the betrayal of trust. The monkey, a mockery of human behavior, symbolizing moral corruption. The snake, treachery and danger. The rooster, a herald of death, crowing before execution. Once sewn in with this chaotic menagerie, the sack was taken to the nearest body of water, often the Tiber River, and thrown in. Inside, the animals would panic, bite, scratch, and thrash in the darkness. The prisoner would be attacked from all sides, drowning not just in water but in chaos. It was designed to be not only a physical death, but a symbolic one, cutting the criminal off from the human world, from the earth, and from the proper funeral rites that Romans believed were necessary for the soul to rest in peace. History does not preserve her name, perhaps deliberately. Roman historians often erased the identities of those they wished to disgrace, denying them the immortality of memory. What we do know is that she was a woman of noble birth, married into a family with influence in the Senate. Accusations arose that she had not only committed adultery, but had been involved in a plot against her husband's political allies. Some whispered that she had conspired to poison him. Others believed the charges were fabricated to remove her from the political game. In any other case, exile might have been her fate. But the Senate, whether driven by vengeance, politics, or a desire to set an example, declared her guilty of a crime equivalent to parricide. And for that, they chose Pinna Cullii. We can only imagine the scene. The forum would have been alive with murmurs. Citizens craning their necks to catch sight of the condemned woman. The leather sack, stiff and heavy, lying on the ground beside the executioners. She would have been stripped of her fine garments, her jewelry taken, her hair unbound. A deliberate act to strip her of status. Before the crowd, the animals were brought forth, their cries adding to the tension. The bark of the dog, the screech of the monkey, the hiss of the snake, the rooster's frantic flapping. One by one, they were forced into the sack. Then the woman was shoved in after them, her wrists and ankles bound. The leather was sewn shut, sealing her fate. The crowd would have followed as the sack was carried through the streets toward the river. There would be no trial left to plead, no mercy left to beg for. The moment the sack hit the water, her world became nothing but darkness, fear, and suffocation. The Romans believed that in this way, the criminal would be denied the comfort of the earth. No burial, no tomb, no marker. It was a punishment designed to erase the person entirely. To modern eyes, the punishment seems almost unimaginably barbaric. But in Rome, everything was symbolic. The combination of animals was meant to represent the chaos and unnatural disorder of killing one's kin. The sack removed the condemned from the natural order of life and death, while drowning ensured no proper burial, a fate many Romans feared more than death itself. For women, the added cruelty came from the public humiliation. In a society obsessed with reputation, the spectacle of a noblewoman subjected to such a degrading and violent death sent a clear message. No one, no matter how high-born, was beyond the reach of Roman law. Pinna Cullii did not disappear immediately. Records show it was used in various forms well into the later centuries of the empire. But over time, it was replaced by other methods of execution. Eventually, it became a historical curiosity, a grim reminder of Rome's ability to combine legal precision with theatrical cruelty. The woman's story, though largely lost to time, lives on in this punishment's history. Her anonymity is perhaps the final act of Roman justice or Roman spite, ensuring that she would be remembered only as the woman in the sack, her name erased forever. Rome was a civilization of contradictions, capable of extraordinary achievements in law, architecture, and governance, yet also capable of devising punishments so brutal that they haunt the imagination 2 millennia later. The story of the woman sentenced to Pinna Cullii is more than just a gruesome historical footnote. It is a window into the value, fears, and power structures of a society that shaped much of the Western world. For the Romans, justice was not blind, it was a performance, a warning, and a declaration of power. And in the case of this woman, that performance ended in the cold, dark waters of the Tiber, with nothing left but the ripples and the memory of a punishment that remains one of the cruelest in history.